For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon de Rehove. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Now, what do you see as the implications of the expulsion of Zwelinzima Vavi from COSATU?
I think that the expulsion really is an indication of the collapse of the alliance, but that collapse was already happening before Vavi's expulsion. It's just a very dramatic example. And I think we need to look at what has happened today in the context of the flux that has characterized the alliance, the establishment of the alliance throughout its history. It took quite a long time to establish an alliance, initially between the Communist Party and the ANC. In the early days of the Communist Party, it was a white working class organization, and the trade union movement was initially a white trade union movement. And the communists viewed the ANC as a sort of bourgeois organization, and they were cynical about them. Likewise, the ANC took a long time to rid themselves of suspicion of the communists. But I think that over the years, the need for an alliance between the working class and, in this case, the Communist Party and the ANC developed. And it started to consolidate in the 1950s, although the Communist Party was then a banned organization and it was illegal. But certain communist figures, like Moses Kotane, as an individual, formed very close relationships with leaders of the ANC, in particular Albert Luthuli, who, in the case of Kotane also formed a close relationship later with Oliver Tambo. Now, this is a personal trust that developed between two Christian leaders of the ANC and a communist leader. And that's a different thing from an organizational link. In the 1950s, at the level of legality, the Communist Party couldn't really be there, but they were actually there. They were there as an underground organization, but as individual members in the ANC, in the Congress of Democrats, in the Indian Congresses, in the Federation of South African Women, and in SACTU, South African Congress of Trade Unions, that was formed in the 1950s, although it didn't have a long existence. So you have, in the first place, this development, the sense that the communists impressed people, that they could be trusted, that they were hard-working. Nelson Mandela, who in that period was very anti-communist, was nevertheless very impressed with J.B. Marx, Moses Kotane, and Michael Harmel, certain other communists, or Bram Fischer. So the beginning is really, so what we're seeing today is part of a long history, a history whereby each side, and was initially mainly the communists and the ANC, sized one another up, and they came to trust one another more.
Would you say the period of illegality was a key factor in the consolidation of the ANC and SACP alliance?
Now, the period of illegality was very important. The Communist Party was illegal from 1950, but it reconstituted itself as an underground organization in 1953. So by the time the ANC was banned in 1960, the Communist Party had already been underground for 7 or 8 years. So it was very experienced insofar as, you can accumulate experience of underground activities. So when the ANC was banned, it was a mass organization. The Communists were a small organization, but they knew how to work underground. And I think the communist experience was very important in ensuring the survival of the ANC after banning. Because of that experience, they could show people that the way you can survive is not by having big committees and things like this that you organize as small units and things like that. So that was very important, and was also important in the period of exile. There were people who remained inside the country. Some of them went to jail, but some didn't. And I've shown in my book on the ANC underground that the communists did continue to organize in that period before 1976. The ANC also did have an underground presence. But the period in exile is very important because the communists were an important ideological force, and they played a big role in their relationship with the ANC in influencing the direction and the perspectives that the ANC adopted. For example, the way in which the communists came to analyze the character of South Africa as being a special type of colony was one that was adopted by the ANC as well. In other words, they said this is not just a capitalist country. This is a country where, unlike a conventional colony, black South Africa are being colonized by the white South African state. That links also to National Democratic Revolution and a number of other perspectives which the ANC adopted from the Communist Party.
Thank you very much for your insight. That was Professor Raymond Suttner providing some background to the unravelling of the ANC-led tripartite alliance.